Okay, now I don't like to prejudice anyone, but sometimes we have a phenomenon where we read a pasuk and it's like, what is this saying? Like we have no idea what it's saying. And then sometimes we have a pasuk where it sounds like it's saying an obvious idea. I think the challenge now for this one will be that it looks like it's saying an obvious idea, both intrinsically and because of the psukim that we've done in the last couple of weeks, which is why, again, I'm glad I said this last time. I'm glad that we've had time in between Monday Night Mishlei sessions because the psukim are very similar. And again, to the point where like a lot of them Mefarshim just like interpret them all in one batch. So just fair warning here, if it looks obvious, then that is the challenge. Okay, let's get cracking. Monea, so this is Mishlei 11:26, Yud Aleph Chavav. Monea bar yikvuhu laom. I forgot to put here. Okay, uvracha larosh mashbir. Okay, not the easiest words here. So monea, prevent or withhold. Okay, and here I'm going to go ahead and just tell you it's withhold. Okay, one who withholds bar. Anyone know what bar is? Well, it says right there. Yeah, sorry. One who withholds grain. Okay. Bar can also mean a field, but I didn't see anyone who actually learned it that way, so we're going to go ahead and just ignore that. One who withholds grain, yikvuhu laom. Okay, laom is the one I forgot to put here. You know what laom is? You might be able to figure it out from the shoresh, but the shoresh is a little hard. You got to figure out the shoresh. Once you figure out the shoresh, then maybe you can figure it out.
Cursed from the womb? No.
No. That's a good guess. And in fact, I bet you could get some people who argue that they're related, that the meaning is related. So I forgot to put the All Torah translation there. So La'om, they translate it as people, okay, or I think nation, population. So I think that might be related because it's like related to aim, like mother. Okay, so one who withholds grain, and then yikvuhu is to curse. Okay, so we'll be cursed by people. Okay, let's just translate like that for now. Ubracha larosh mashbir, and blessing for the head of the anyone who mashbir is. I'd be very impressed if anyone knew what mashbir is. You might know it from Beraishit. It's from Sefer Beraishit, from an event later on in Sefer Beraishit. In fact, these words the word bar is related to mashbir in this story that I'm thinking of.
Cain and Abel story?
Nope. Later than that.
Is it like I don't know, like to give over or like to?
So the shoresh is interesting. The shoresh is shin bet reish, which is to break, but that's not going to help you with the meaning.
Is it like the plow?
No, good guess though. Also, it is related to food. So it means to sell grain. Okay, the grain seller. Okay, and the story that I'm thinking of, I actually copied and pasted down here, is Yosef. Okay, so this is in Beraishit Mem Beis Aleph through Gimel. V'yar Yaakov ki yesh shever b'mitzrayim. So that's the same word. So Yaakov saw that there was shever, which I think the way that they translate it also is not grain seller, seller of provisions. I think is a better thing. So this is when there was a famine, right? So he saw that there was a shever in Mitzrayim in Egypt. V'yomer Yaakov le'avanav lama tisra'u, and so he said to his sons, Lama tisra'u v'yomer hine shamati ki yesh shever b'Mitzrayim. He said, behold, I heard that there is shever in Egypt. Redu shama v'shivru lanu misham. Go down there and shivru lanu, get provisions for us from there. V'nichya, and we will live lo namus, and we will not die. V'yirdu ach Yosef asar lishbor bar b'Mitzrayim. And the brothers of Yosef went down, the 10 of them, lishbor bar, to get provisions of grain from Egypt. Okay, and then here's the word now. A couple of pasukim later, Yosef hu hashalit al haaretz. Yosef was the ruler over the land. Vu hamashbir l'chol am haaretz. He was the one who sold grain to the entire land. Okay, so that's the where we get that from. Okay, so that is our translation. Let's just see if we get any other clues here. Mitzudas says bar is tavua, is produce, grain. Okay, yikavuhu is yikalaluhu, is to be cursed. Okay, he doesn't translate laom for us. Sadion says bracha, so he says vaha bracha tachol brosha mashbir. Okay, so he says blessing will fall upon the head of the the seller provisions. Okay, I'm not even going to list that as a separate translation. I think it's just he's just making the phrasing work nicely. To be honest, I'm not in the mood to look up the words in Targum tonight, so we're going to skip Targum just like we did this morning. Okay, Art Scroll says, one who withholds produce will be cursed by the nation, but blessing will be on the head of the provider. Okay, so that's pretty much the same as we did. Actually, well, let's do this. The provider or seller of provisions. Okay, those are both translations. Okay, so that's how our scroll has it. Living Mouth says, he who withholds grain will be cursed by his countrymen, but blessings alight. Okay, that's kind of an archaic word, upon the head of one who supplies it. Okay, so he's saying it's supplier, a supplier of the grain. And then Alter says, who holds back grain, the nation will damn, not damned, will damn, but blessing on the provider's head. Okay, so no real differences in translations here. I think we're good with ours. Okay, so, and again, because this looks simple, I'm kind of wondering if this is going to be a short night. We'll see. Many times I've thought that and have been proven wrong. So let's dig into this. What are the questions?
I guess, how is this not obvious?
Yeah, okay, right. So we'll list that because we did say that. So isn't this obvious? Okay, now when I say isn't this obvious, I mean, some psukim look like they're just saying an obvious idea. This one is detailed enough that you can tell something else is going on, but like in terms of the pshat, I mean, like, if you withhold grain, then people won't like you, and if you provide for people, then they'll like you, so like that's the obvious idea that we're trying to get past. Okay, can
I just ask on what you just said? You mentioned that is detailed enough. What are the details that you're referring to? I'm just trying to.
So the details here are, this is not just talking about doing good for people. This is talking about specifically withholding produce or grain, so the specificity is one detail. Cursing is also an interesting way to, actually, you know what? I actually don't want to say this because I feel like I'm going to give away all the questions. Okay, so we'll if there are any that we missed, hopefully the answer to that question, Ariel, will become evident as people go on. Yeah, Isaiah?
My question is, why is a person withholding grain? Why is he doing it?
So why would a person withhold grain? Okay, doesn't he know that people will curse him? Yeah, Isaiah?
Right.
Isn't no. Is the bracha that the person who's providing getting, is it from people, the people, is it from another source?
Okay, so let's actually divide that into two questions. So what is the bracha? What is the blessing that the provider is getting? And then does it come from people, God, or something else, right? I guess, or himself, right? I guess those are the only three possibilities. Yeah, Chaim.
Yeah, what's the relationship between the withholdees and the cursing?
Okay.
Does that have anything to do with anything? Like, do the people who are being withheld from, are they the cursors, or is other people the cursors?
Okay, yeah. So I think, just judging by the way all the three translations translated it, sounds like they are the ones who curse him. So I'm sure, I think we can ask another question there, but I think they're, in other words, no, maybe not, because he will be cursed to his nation, right? Two people. Yeah, hold on a second. By literally two people. Okay, so I'll ask the question the way you said it. What is the relationship between the withholder and the withholdees? Okay, are they the ones cursing him? Okay, which again seems yes, but we'll ask. Yeah, Rifki.
Yeah, also just about specifically grain, like, is there an idea specifically that we should be learning from Shlomo specifically choosing that, or like, is it a more general idea about withholding or giving? Okay, yeah. Okay, good. So let's say, let's put that here. Why focus specifically on grain? Okay, and at the risk of tainting our ideas, I just want to remind you,
how general the last few psukim were. Nefesh bracha tidushan umarve gamhu yoreh. A soul that is blessed will become fat. Okay. Umarve gamhu yoreh. And one who provides drink will be sated, right? Slave, right? So that was just blessing and providing drink. And then the one before that was even more general. Yesh mefazir v'nosaf od v'chosech miyoser achlam machsor. One who scatters. There's one who scatters and gathers more. The one who withholds from uprightness will only be for lack. That didn't even say what we're talking about, So like compared to that, this is very, very specific. Okay, so why focus specifically on grain? I'm going to say like as opposed to speaking in more general terms. Yeah, Avi.
Yeah. Is there any sort of like extra meaning in the fact that he uses the word head instead of just saying that the provider will be blessed?
Okay, good. So what's the blessing that the provider is getting? Let's say, and what is the significance of the blessing being on his head? Okay, what, if anything, I'll say what, if anything, right? Because that could just be a phrase, but maybe that's specific. Okay, Ariel?
Yeah, for the second half of the pasuk, like, I mean, it seems like the two halves of the pasuk are not like complete opposites of each other, because the second half of the pasuk is he's getting blessed for selling something. It's not like he's getting blessed for giving something for free or for good. It's just like he's making a business. So like like you're gonna give the guy a bracha for making a business. It's just
right. Okay, so I'm gonna ask that as a definition question. Okay, what is the definition of mashbir in this context? Okay, if he is like selling the grain, right, then like what's so blessing worthy about that? Okay, and if he's giving it away, why? Okay, I mean, like I mean, I don't know why, but like I guess so Ariel's question was more on if he's selling it, then it's not exactly the opposite. I'll say that. Furthermore, actually, you know what? Let's just ask that as a separate question. Okay, how are the two halves of this pasuk opposites? Yeah, Ariel. Unless that's left over from last time.
Oh yeah, I did have one more, but I'll let the other guys go.
Okay, yeah, sure, Chaim.
Yeah, my question was really similar to that last one.
Yeah.
But I guess I want my question. Can you scroll back up?
Yeah.
Thank you. Was like, what's the if there's supposed to be a comparison drawn, then like what's the comparison or the contrastion between between somebody he's withholding grain, but then he's somebody who provides, not necessarily, I mean, unless we're saying mashbir means necessarily grain. Does it mean necessarily grain? Because if not, it's kind of strange that like we would compare withholding grain to giving to providing anything. So
so let me just really quickly note that where will I find this? Okay, so in Neima Novetsky's beautiful translation of Beraishis, then she points out from the Radak that the word mashbir, the word shever, and mashbir comes from the word, according to the Radak, see Radak Beraishis 42:19, that the word shever is related to the verb shever, to break, suggesting that grain is so called because it serves, that's a typo. Wait, I can't correct it. It serves to break hunger. As per Yosef's words in verse 19, Haviu shever ra'avon batechem, bring food to break your family's hunger. So technically speaking, it's anything that breaks hunger, So usually that's going to be grain, because grain is a staple. When people are starving, you don't give them candy, you give them grain, So it doesn't have to be specifically grain.
Okay, so then I guess my question is based on it not necessarily having to be grain. If it's not necessarily grain, then is there something to draw out from taking the specific in the first half and then like the category in the second half?
Okay, yeah. So sorry, let's just say on bar and mush beer. Okay. And like, in other words, are these merely examples, or is this idea specific to these two types of goods? Does that encompass your question, or am I missing a nuance?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit more nuanced in that, like, I'm seeing grain as a specific entity within the overarching category of provisions.
Mhm.
So it just seems like we're trying to compare someone who's withholding grain to somebody who's giving provisions, but like giving provisions seems to be like more of a grander gesture, I guess, than just, let's say,
Okay.
somebody who were to give grain.
Okay, so let's say, how are these being compared or contrasted? For example, the withholding grain seems to be more specific, means to be more narrow than giving provisions. Right? They're not exact opposites. Yeah. Okay, Isaiah.
Yeah, so I guess similar to the questions we've been asking, but like, what sort of situation is this happening in? Because if it's a famine, then okay, the guy who's withholding his grain, then it's like, seems reasonable that people would curse him for that. But if it's not a famine, then why does he have to give his grain away, or sell his grain if it means that? And the bracha that the second side makes sense kind of either way, but the first side, yeah.
Okay, good. What situation is this talking about, right? So is this a famine or a non-famine time? And how do we, and then I'm going to just leave it implicit, and how do we account for their actions in each one? Okay, next is my dad.
Well, you stole my thunder.
Okay.
The person who withholds a grain, I mean, we're looking at this, the person who withholds a grain is the bad guy, and the provider is the good guy. Could be the opposite. Could be that the one withholding the grain is preparing for a famine or whatever.
Oh, so that's an interesting point, right? Because you probably could bet that people cursed Yosef when he was putting them on austerity measures. In fact, you're right, because like the people were hungry before he busted out the provisions. That's actually a good question. Let me write this as a separate question here. Okay, so thunder not stolen. Are we even certain that the first half is the good guy, sorry, the bad guy, and the second half is the good guy? Maybe withholding is the right thing to do, right? Another example of this is I'm just doing my review of season 4 of The Crown. I am about to finish it, and they talk about Margaret Thatcher, and I think that was one of the things that people hated about Margaret Thatcher, is that she imposed severe austerity measures on Britain's spending, and whether that was good or bad, I mean, the people who held that it was good, had to face the fact that she was getting cursed for it. So yeah. Okay, Ayala.
Okay, I don't think anyone asked yet what the cursing is, like what that means. Correct. That he's getting cursed, and
good question. Yeah,
like why that's bad. Is it just people saying it, or is there like some actual negative thing which is happening to him?
Okay, good. Yeah, what is this curse? What's so bad about it, right? So what? Yeah.
I also have a minor question.
Yeah.
Just about lit om.
Yeah.
Is it like, it's weird that it's saying he's cursed by the people? Like, I mean, I don't know if we can pick on that, but like, instead of just that he'll be cursed, like, what does it mean? Like, why does it add that it's by the people?
Yeah. Okay. So who
else would it be by, I guess?
Yeah. Okay. You know what? I feel like Yeah, hold on a second. Let's all right, let's just go like this. What does by the people mean? Okay. Who else would be cursing him? And then like what does laom mean? I don't know if that's the best way to ask the question in terms of like I'm asking it textually on that one word. And I think these are three different questions that are all on the one word. So we'll just leave it at that. Yeah, Chaim?
Yeah, like what's the excuse me, what's the position of the withholder and the head of the provider? Like both in contrast with I guess the receivers, and then also just like in their own right, meaning like what kind of people are they? Like if we're establishing like a picture, like is this a guy who has very little to eat and the other guy's starving, like, is it a guy who has a lot to eat, he's holding it all in? Like,
Yeah,
it
so
doesn't make a difference,
let's
I don't
do
even know if it
this.
makes a difference.
Yeah, let's actually put that as like a question after the situation question, which is, yeah, and I'm gonna actually crunch this into one question also. So who are these people, the withholder and the provider? Okay, what are their motives? And then are we certain that who's good and who's bad? Yeah, Tamar.
So very, very similar question, I think. But I was thinking about the word monea.
Yeah.
Like what is this scene? I mean, we were thinking about someone who's like withholding grain from everybody in a famine as a type of example, but is this like maybe someone's just asking you for something in like a one-on-one situation? Like what is the request that's being like withheld from, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So what is this withholding? I'm going to put that in the situation question, even though it could be put in the people question. Yeah, Rivki?
Yeah, I don't think we asked this, but can we also apply like the rosh part to the first half, or is it just completely different positions?
You mean like that his head is being cursed in the first half?
No, also because we said like it will fall. Wait, hold on, I have to reread the pasuk.
Yeah, I might have made a mistake here. One who withholds grain will be cursed by the people, and blessing will fall upon the head of the provider.
Oh, no, I misread it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So Ariel, does this answer your question about like what the nuances are? In other words, it's not just saying like if you do good stuff for people, then they'll like you, and if you do bad stuff or you withhold good stuff, then they won't like you. Like it seems the focus on like it does seem like it's focusing on a specific scenario and specific types of like giving and withholding.
Yeah. Did we ask? Sorry, just one more question. Did we ask why? Why does it say it'll fall upon the head?
Yeah.
Of the provider? Like why not just the provider?
We did, and where did we put it?
Yeah, I was looking for that.
5.
Thank you. Yeah.
5.
Why? What if anything is a blessing on it?
Okay, there we go. Okay, yeah, I was looking for that.
Sure.
Awesome.
Chaim?
Yeah, I'm not sure if this question was like directly addressed or if like we may have like touched on it, but is like what's with the I guess what's the comparison between the withholder being cursed and the blessing falling upon the provider? Like it seems like one is, I mean, just like it seems like one is like very like almost like direct and like pointed, like being cursed, and then falling upon almost seems like happenstance in a sense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let's do that. And yeah. Yeah. So that I think will be covered by 5, 7, 7, and 10. Yeah, Avi.
Yeah, quick translation question,
Yeah.
which is for Rosh Mashbir.
Yeah.
We have it as the head of the provider. Would it make any sense to say like the head provider?
Oh, that's interesting. Not you mean like the chief provider, right? Like
Yeah.
not like one, not like a like providing heads, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rosh Mashbir. I don't know enough about grammar to say if that could be like a smichus thing. I'm not sure. That's I for all I know, yeah, but it's a good possibility. I just don't know. Rosh Mashbir. Trying to think if there's a way. Yeah, let me just look at the Ta'amim, see if that gives us a clue. Not that I know what I'm doing there either. Rosh Mashbir. Yeah, I don't know enough to say. And none of the translations that in the English said it, which means that it doesn't, that's not a proof, but yeah, I don't know. Let's put it this way. If you have an idea that is in line with that, then let's go ahead and explore it. But we'll leave it this way for now. Okay, any other questions?
Who the audience is?
So I think the audience would seem to be the guy who's withholding well, I guess the guy who has grain in the scenario, right? And is in a position to either withhold it or to provide/sell it. So I don't think we need to ask that. And I don't think we need to ask what's the practical implication, right? Because it's telling us directly, don't withhold it. I mean, we need to know what withholding is, exactly like what the parameters are, and also what the parameters are of the providing, right? But
according to the way your father was reading it, you know, it could also be
right. That's true. It could be that you should withhold it and ignore the curses or something. Yeah.
So
okay, so let us take our minute to think. Can I fit this all in one? Okay, that's the biggest I can get it. Okay, let's take our minute to think. And then we will take again, reminder, this year we are changing the strategy and taking fully or close to being done ideas. 80%, if your idea is 80% and above, then we'll take that first. Okay, and if it's a partial approach, then you can continue to develop it and say it later.
Right.
Right, let's
I'm holding accountable to.
Yes, should I formally announce that so that everyone?
No, don't.
Okay.
Don't.
Yeah.
Just don't forget.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Okay, let's think. I will tell you, by the way, not that this has to, slant your reading. The vast majority of Mefarshim do interpret this to be at a time of famine. Okay, who has a complete or near complete approach that they'd like to share? Yeah, Avi.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe like it could be talking about like dealing honestly in business.
Okay.
I was thinking about if you want to take Mashbir as a seller of provisions.
Yeah.
Then that could be talking about someone who is like, maybe they're just, doing their business, but they're doing it honestly, and like they're being careful not to be like immoral in their business or whatever. And someone who withholds grain could be someone who's dealing dishonestly, like using like improper weights or something to, try to like scam their customers or whatever.
Yeah. So that's certainly a Mishleic topic. My intuition is that, and my intuition, not just like from Mishlei in general, but specifically from like pasukim we've done in Monday Night Shiur over the last 3 years, 2.5 years, is that I think if this were talking about a dishonest type of business, then you would see like references to that in the text. So for example, Rosh Ose Kaf Ramia Vyad Harutzim Tashir. That was one of the first ones we did, that a lazy person makes a deceitful scale, or sorry, a deceitful scale makes someone poor, and the hand of the diligent will make wealth. Or like, let's say the weights and measures one. Mosne mirma toavas Hashem Evan shlema ratono. Scales of deceit are an abomination of Hashem, but an accurate stone is his desire. So I just think the fact that this one doesn't really have indications of honesty or dishonesty leads me, even though the idea is true that you're getting at.
Yeah.
That's really what it's saying here. Yeah. All right, Rivki.
Yeah, so I was thinking a few things. Like, I don't know how cohesive it is, but I do have like a lot of thoughts. So
Now,
first,
just to be clear, the
Mhm.
lot of thoughts that you're sharing now are in one batch that you're trying to make.
Yeah.
cohesive? Okay.
Yeah,
all
I'm
right,
saying
all
like,
right.
yeah.
Okay.
We'll see how it goes. But
Okay.
I was thinking about it in terms of like kind of like the headline either being really like going one of two ways. Number one, like my first thought was more on like a situation of like communism gone wrong, kind of, which is
Okay.
happens a lot. And I was thinking about like situations like North Korea or whatever would be like even some places during Holocaust, like X, Y, and Z. So just kind of like how the main people in power have the option to either like use their power and wealth to help the country that they're supposed to be helping, or they won't do that. So I feel like this could mean incentives to be like, the people will, it doesn't say Hashem, which I think it's interesting to think about it like that.
Right.
So if you're helping the people, then they'll bless you. And and also I'm assuming Hashem will also, because that's just natural. But then the people will curse you if you don't. So that's like the communism.
Okay. So now I actually do want to add the question here of who is the audience. Okay, because I said that the audience is someone who has who is the audience? Okay, we could put that there, because I was just saying it's someone who has grain and someone who doesn't have grain, but there's a big difference between if we're talking about like a private wealth owner, or a farmer, versus like the leader of a country who's in charge of like distributing the resources.
Yeah, like if Yosef was like really bad,
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's a good point. And it's funny, by the way, I'm not going to give away my idea right now. But it's funny you said that the headline is like communism gone wrong. My headline was capitalism gone wrong versus capitalism gone right. I'll save that for later. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let's just think about Rivki's for 1 second here. If anyone has anything to add to Rivki's, then let me know. You could jump in. And if I just want to take this out here. So what would be the mistake, I guess, or what would be the incentive, the motive of the leader who has food and his people are starving, and he withholds it?
I also feel like just living in fear is like a very like, you don't know. It doesn't say specifically that like the people will do anything other than curse you, meaning like I feel like a curse could just be interpreted as like, oh, like you're hated. But I also like, can we also read that as like something negative, like kind of like paranoia? I'm saying like I feel like that will really cause a lot of paranoia in the person that has all of the grain. Yeah, well, so let's okay, I think those are both good questions. Let's just say, what would be the most simple motive for the guy who is in power to like withhold this produce? So he has more. So he has more what? Like food or whatever it would be, or money. Okay, so
Control.
Okay, so I guess I guess those are okay. I'm under the impression that the guy has enough to be able to provide for everyone, because if not, then the two halves of the pasuk aren't really talking about the same situation. So he has enough. So I think that it really is for control or for power, and you could see people who are like in a situation like this, where if they make the people utterly dependent on them, then they think, I'm going to be able to control all these people and like push all of their buttons and be able to dictate, when, I'll be able to make them do whatever I want, so it feeds this fantasy of greater power. But what's going to happen is they're going to curse him. So let's try to answer the question that Rivki was saying, like, so what? Curse him, who cares? Like, what does that indicate? Why is that so bad?
I'm still having difficulty understanding Rivki's like main idea, like what, meaning like the dictator is going to, the president leader is going to withhold it because why?
For more power.
Just for more power?
Yeah. I mean, to take an example that we're all familiar with, is, there are, I'm sure we've all had at least one teacher who was like an evil teacher who was power hungry and like tried to control the class through like tyrannical means, and they are creating an environment where, in order for the people who are being ruled to get anything, they have to like cater to the whims of the person in power, so in the immediate sense it is power, like they can control people with this, and if you imagine in a situation being food, and like, let's take let's use the North Korea example. I mean, the more loyal you are to the regime, then the more wealth you get distributed to you and the more bread you have. And if you aren't loyal enough to like the dear leaders, then like you get knocked down a couple of notches and like you are in poverty, and like, like it's all about these power dynamics, and they know that, and that's why they manipulate it like that.
So what's the question right now?
The question is, so what if they curse you? And also the question is, what is the second half saying? Second half is articulating the good decision.
Well, I mean, can't you just answer the question by, using Rifki's line of reasoning is that, like they'll rebel against you?
Right, but the question still has to be, why does the pasuk say curse? Right? Why not defeat or destroy or kill? Right, cursing seems rather tame.
Isn't that the curse? The curse that he will be removed from power.
Can I say an idea about that?
Sure. Yeah.
Just because like literally at the tip of my brain.
Yeah.
Could we say that, because if we're speaking specifically about power, again, it's just easy to use example. So let's say in North Korea that, okay, maybe not North Korea, but in general, like the people are supposed to be like electing the leaders and supposed to be like liking who they have in charge.
Yeah.
And obviously if you're withholding grain, whether it's in a famine or not, it makes more sense if it is, but either way, like your popularity is going to go immensely down. Like, I feel like cursing is like implying that like one way or another, you're kind of going to be like demoted.
Yeah. Okay. I think you're on the right track. I think we could get a more like satisfying answer. Yeah. Chaim?
Yeah, so well, I agree that like you'll get the tyrannical ruler will get demoted at some point, which will be bad for him. But I think the worst part for him is that what he really wants is the power, and you get and in order to control people, whatever it is. But when people start to curse him, and I assume not listen to him as well, then it's not like, it seems like the demotion is like the final kick out. But like when he's like actively losing his control and losing his power, like that's the real curse for him. It's not like okay, he gets kicked out and maybe he gets killed or whatever it is, but like the real, like I feel like the real harm to him is like when he's actively trying to get more and more power, but he's actively slipping away from him.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's a good approach. I have more to say on that, but I'll call in tomorrow for a scenario.
I actually kind of had an opposite take a little bit, which was that even if he has like complete political control, like I feel like somebody who wants power, I guess there's a lot of different, like, I'm not trying to give a whole psychological profile, but like, I assume they want to feel good about themselves, like, and if like, technically people do what you want because they want something that you have, but everyone like, hates you and like, spits at you or whatever, like I feel like that's not a very, it's not the dream, like it's not like
yeah. So it's interesting because I actually don't know whether that's just us projecting our own values onto leaders. And I think one of the things that's making me wonder that, and I don't even remember how he answers this, but one of the famous questions in Machiavelli is it better for the prince to be loved or feared? And I do think that there are, and especially I guess if you go into the ancient world, when like rulers were like god pharaohs, then like maybe they want fear. Maybe fear is the better thing. I just don't know. So
it's interesting.
Yeah. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but like I'm just not sure. Yeah, Ariel?
Yeah, can you maybe say, and I don't know exactly if this is where Rifki was headed, but can you maybe say that, like if he wants to be in power, maybe you could say that the reason why I don't know how far I'm speculating, but like maybe he's in power because he wants to be liked.
Isn't that what Tamara was just saying?
Oh,
I thought that was what Tamara was just saying.
Oh, I thought that was a refute. Was also, I don't know.
I mean, I thought that was what Tamara was saying, and then that was what I was addressing.
I thought she.
I mean, Tamara can.
Yeah,
Tamara, is that
can you
that you were saying, or?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was just saying, not like the person wants to be in power because they want to be liked, like exactly, but that maybe people not liking them would sort of take the wind out of their sails, like not be
right. Ultimately, that's what they want. That's how they would not be happy if they were in power and universally disliked. Right.
Okay, fine. Okay, I know why I got confused, because like I thought she was saying that like they don't necessarily want to be liked, but I got confused. Okay.
Right. Okay, so let me just give maybe just a slightly different way of saying what Chaim was saying is what is a curse?
I mean, isn't it
like a thing that like sticks around and does bad things to you?
A thing that sticks around that does bad to you? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So I'll ask about like the verb to curse. Like, what are you doing when you curse someone?
Like to wish bad on someone.
Yeah, is that I think a curse is an expression of ill will, right? That you of whether it's a verbal expression or like in action, it is wanting this person to have the opposite of success, So so the thing is that Chaim, just jog my memory, Chaim, and tell me what you were saying again.
I think
the downfall is really just like the culmination, right? So in other words, the reason why the ruler does not want curses is not because he wants to be liked necessarily. It's that having everyone hate you creates a very, very threatening, unstable situation for your power. That is not the type of situation that you want to be in when you're in power. And you look at the, again, you look at like the, I guess the most famous example I know of is with Stalin, of, like deleting all those people from his like pictures and stuff, like all the people that he was paranoid were gonna we're gonna try to overthrow him. And all the real life cases where people who were close to the person in power overthrew him. I mean, that was concerned about people who allegedly did like you. If everyone dislikes you, so then that is a very, very that's a very unstable situation. And here's the clincher is that the person, the Russia wants more than anything, not the actual power, but the fantasy of power. They want to be able to feel like I am in control and that I am great. And they can't feel that if everyone hates them. If they're universally disliked, they can't feel that. So it's true that like the real threat is that the people are going to overthrow him, but like the consequence itself is in the universal hatred of this person. And it's not just a hatred of like look, people. There were people who hated Donald Trump or still hate Donald Trump because of his character. But then there are people who hate him because they feel like he's harming the country. And then there are people who hate him because they feel like he is an existential threat to them, personally. And if the ruler is withholding like food, that's like an existential threat, which is going to provoke like an existential hatred. Like that's an extreme form of hatred, So like you cannot maintain that power fantasy, even though this guy wants to control people by keeping his hands on the reins here being food. It's not going to give him that sense of power that he's looking for, and might actually like topple his regime. Yeah, Tamar. Yeah, we'll go down.
So are you saying that the like, I don't know, the most immediate consequence of the curse is that it's going to increase his paranoia and that he's not going to feel like he's in power? Yeah.
I'm not even saying like increasing paranoia is just one form of it. I think that even if it's not increasing, like when this ruler goes out on the stage and everyone boos him, that itself like is going to diminish his power, even though there's no paranoia attached to that. It's going to diminish his fantasy of power.
Because you can see that it's unstable.
because he is. Let me think if I can say it clear. Because I'm scrupulously trying to avoid saying that he wants to be liked. It's not that he wants to be liked. It's that being disliked punctures the fantasy of power that he has, which might have been what you were saying when you were saying it takes the wind out of his sails. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, wait, I'm saying something different now from what I was saying before, though. I'm just trying to clarify what you were saying. Are you saying that the issue for the guy who does not necessarily want to be liked is that if he sees that people don't like him, then he can see that his power is unstable, and then he doesn't get to feel powerful?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And okay. Even if, I guess the point I was trying to make about paranoia is even if it is not linked to actual paranoia where he's like worried about them taking control, like there's a dissension in the ranks. There's something like, this is not a situation where I can bask in my power, like that's the type of unsubtleness that I'm talking about. Yeah, Chaim?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to this that I when you asked for the definition of curse, like what a curse is, like my thought was that it's like a visible, so to speak, like representation of a reality which is contrary to like your fantasy or like your subjective reality, what you want reality to be. So I think that really works well with like the way that you're describing like how it like shatters his illusion that like he has the power over the people. Yeah,
that's good. That's good. A good way to frame it also. Yeah, Rivki?
Yeah, just small point to add, which I think could be interesting, is that like you said, like all the consequences that could happen and like that we were speaking about once all of this happens to that first person. And I think like the thing that would also be like the most like physical almost would be eventually that not only would he lose his power like mentally, but I'm assuming eventually he would also lose his grain if we're going down that route.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had a good example of this. I mean, the example that came to my mind, even though it wasn't withholding grain, was the Russian Revolution. I mean, like, of like, talk about like a royal family that had not grain, but just riches, and then they had it like literally, taken from them and they got killed.
Or like Schitt's Creek, not the same, but that idea.
Yeah, I don't know the show well enough.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard it's good though. Yeah, next. Dad has a question or an answer. Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
So this may be an extrapolation.
Yeah.
From the verse. Nowhere in this verse do we see who's the Rasha and who's the Tzaddik.
Right.
Who's the Chacham and who's the fool.
Right.
And maybe what the verse is saying is ignore what the people are saying.
Yeah.
Nowhere, we don't know what the situation is, so we don't know what's right in this situation. Do what's right. If the people curse you, that shouldn't stop you from doing what's right. If the people are blessing you for giving out the provisions, that shouldn't influence you. Just do whatever is right in these circumstances.
Okay, so just to be clear here, are you giving a different interpretation of the pasuk than the one we're working on right now?
Yes, I'm saying.
So let me put that on hold. I just want to make sure that we wrap this one up. Okay. Yeah, Isaiah.
Okay, so maybe I'm a little confused about how we're going about learning this right now. But it seems to me like we're saying that the guy who's withholding rain, he's like a ruler and he's going to be cursed, and that's going to be a curse that he's going to lose his way he sort of is relating to his people.
Yeah.
But isn't that? It sounds like that's kind of just we're like addressing his like emotion. We're saying something like he'll have an emotionally hard time if he does this, but it sounds like if he like realizes that emotion was false, he could withhold the grain and then not have that bad time, like, and not be caught up in that ruler state that he's
so
in.
I think I can answer that with explaining the second half of the pasuk. But anyone want to take a crack at the second half of the pasuk based on this approach that we're taking? Yeah, Yala?
So not a full idea, but I think it's interesting that it's saying like the head of the whatever, like not that he's gonna give away, like what people pointed out in the questions.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't really seem exactly like an opposite. Like he's not just giving away grain, he's like giving it out in a systematic way.
Yeah.
So maybe, I mean, the opposite of this would be like someone who is working for the people. The people will recognize that and will end up praising him, but it's not just someone who's like giving away free stuff and whatever, because like maybe a few people like him and like maybe he will get some favor because like who doesn't want free stuff? But like at the end of the day, like the system won't work out, and that way he wouldn't either be liked in the end of the day. But if he's able to do it in like a systematically good way, then like the system will work well and people will appreciate that.
Okay, so let me. I'm gonna circle back to that idea through stating this in broad terms here, which is according to what Rivki, the way Rivki's learning it, then the pasuk is aimed at a ruler who has resources and wants to use that, and there's a situation of scarcity, right? Like the ruler has resources that are disproportionate to what the people have, and he wants to like capitalize on that for power, right? But what he does is he thinks that the withholding, that he, by depriving the people of it, then that will give him power, because it gives him the illusion that I am the one who is the source of all of your good, okay? What the second half of the pasuk is saying is there is a way for him to maintain power through being the one who provides resources, but in a way that is good for him and makes the people like him, right? And it's a fine, I don't want to say it's a fine line in reality, but I'm saying like on paper, it's a fine line. You know, if you think about what are both these people doing, both these rulers, the one who makes the bad decision and the one who makes the good decision, have the resources. They're the ones who are distributing them. And especially if you say he's selling it, so then like, he's not even just giving it away for free, you know? So they both have their hands on the reins, and they're both controlling the people in the sense that the people need to come to this guy to get the money. But he, in the first half, he thinks he could do it through deprivation. In the second half, he's doing it through giving. And the question is like, what are the criteria that make you go into the first half or the second half? You know, now Ayala is answering that by saying that the second, I mean, Ayala, I know I'm intentionally putting words in your mouth. So tell me if this is not really what you're saying. Ayala is saying in the second half that he's doing it in a Mishlei tzaddik way. He's doing it like in a systematic way where like, he's not, you know, being foolish about it. He's giving people what they need. He's rehabilitating like the society, again, much like Yosef did. You know, he didn't just say, okay, everyone come and get whatever grains you wanted. He said, no, we have a limited supply. We need to dole it out over the course of these 7 years. We need to have keep this severe tax going, you know, to make sure that there's a supply going, you know. So he consolidated the power, but he was doing it in a way that was perceived as being rehabilitative and like, you know, he was being perceived as giving blessing to the people, and therefore they wanted to give blessing to him. The guy in the first half is perceived as depriving the people, so they want to deprive him of power. Rivki?
Yeah, I really, really like that idea. And also like based off of what you and Ayala were just saying, like I think it's like interesting to think about it, like specifically the word bracha. I was just thinking about what is a bracha, and through at least like the lens of Mishlei, we would assume that this person is also like kind of in the line of Hashem's ratzon. So like if you are giving to people, especially in, let's say, a situation of a famine, then obviously like you're going to get a bracha. And I think it's interesting because you can say like that bracha is like from Hashem, like meaning like, let's say if it has this or not, whatever, but then also from the people, because and that could actually be the bracha from Hashem, because then you are getting that consolidation of power because you're like in line with the proper values and you're doing the right thing.
Right. Yeah. That it definitely works out. And I do like that it states it in a general way. So it implies bracha from multiple sources. Yeah. Okay, good. So I think that this idea, we'll type it up at the end. But this idea we're calling the power hungry leader approach. Okay. And again, I like what Ayala said for the second half, and I realize that Mishlei is not. Oh, you know what? Actually, maybe Mishlei is answering the question of how he does it. What's the clue? The clue is mashbir. Okay, mashbir is, as the Radak said, is providing enough to break the hunger. You know, that what you have to be doing is you have to be providing the food in a way that creates the experience of satisfaction. Now, I'm choosing those words carefully because, you know, of course, if there are enough resources, then the leader is going to provide enough to actually give the people what they need, but that's not necessarily going to cut it. In other words, if the people get what they need, but they perceive that as being a lack, then you're not going to get this bracha from them, or conversely, sometimes you could provide the people with something that makes them feel like their needs are being satisfied, even though objectively they're not, but the bracha is going to come from being perceived as a mashbir, one who is giving shever ra'avon, breaking their hunger, whereas this first person is viewed basically as a hoarder of substance, right? A monea bar, and that allows the people's dissatisfaction to flourish, and this guy is just preventing me from being satisfied. In other words, it has to be perceived by the people who you're ruling as like satisfying their desire, and then they will like you for being the one who satisfies their desire, as opposed to being one who is withholding goods through which we could satisfy our desire. I think that works out. So in other words, I think what Ayala is saying is definitely true, that if it's a systematic tzaddik type way, then that's good. But I don't even think you need that. I think it just has to be like perceived as being satisfying of their needs. Yeah, Ayala?
Just a question. I mean, I think you kind of said it a little bit, but are you able to spell out a little more how, like from the second half, how the fantasy of power plays in?
Yeah, because the guy, if Mishlei is addressing a person who wants to maintain his power, okay, Mishlei is giving him a way to do that, is if you dole out the resources you have in a way that satisfies people's desires and makes them like you, they will want you to still stay in power, because like you're being perceived as having goodwill towards them, and B, more importantly, you're giving them stuff that they want. So
will the fantasy come true, kind of?
Yeah, it'll come true in the most realistic way possible. I mean, since it's a fantasy, it can't only come true, but you will be able to be like, look around and people will be admiring you, for bringing prosperity to them, or at least their needs. Yeah. Okay, good. All right, I think we have a bow on that one. Okay, good. All right, now let's just go to my dad's approach, which is based on the observation that we can't tell who's good or who's bad. And it's saying that to ignore the curses and not clamor after
circumstances either, not just who's good and who's bad, but is this famine, is this,
Well, I mean, here's the thing, is that like, it's not just that you should always withhold, right? And it's not that you should always give. So that's why I'm a little, I don't know if we want to throw out entirely the notion of saying like, it doesn't matter what the circumstances are, because, yeah.
I can see your point.
Yeah, could we develop this idea? I think this idea is close to being finished. And I think the key is to look at Yosef, because Yosef was withholding grain, and people were cursing him, presumably, even though the pasukim don't say that. But that was the right thing to do. And in order to maintain that, if he allowed himself to be like taken in by their curses, then to be affected by the curses, then he would have abandoned the plan, and then that would have been disastrous for everybody. And similarly, if he had like just continued to like try to maintain Egypt's image of being this prosperous kingdom during the 7 years of plenty, and just given out grain, then that would have also been disastrous. So he had to forego like getting these blessings in order to like do what's good for the people, and then ultimately he would get what is the real blessings and avoid the real curses. Yeah, Ariel?
Yeah, it kind of just depends on what we're defining as good or bad, because like I have an approach that really, like, I don't necessarily think it makes a difference if he's good or bad.
Okay, why don't you say it now? Because that's the approach that we're taking right now. Your request notwithstanding, I think we should take your approach now and see if we could weave it in.
Okay, so it kind of reminds me of what's her Naomi and Elimelech.
I was thinking about them also, and I was thinking that you were going to be thinking about them, because whenever we talk about famine, then that's the go-to. Yeah.
Well, Rus is a good.
I know, no, that's one reason why the book was written. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so over like Elimelech, he was a tzaddik, he wasn't a Russia. He was a normal, actually more than normal. He was like one of the elders of Klal Yisrael, right?
Right.
And when he had money, and it wasn't, and I'm learning this in the context of a famine. Like I don't think that my idea will work outside of a famine, because it's the intensity, it's the emotional intensity and psychology that the people are dealing with it.
Yeah.
So I think the when they left, they kind of they had this money, and it was in a famine, and they abandoned the people, and they kind of withheld their wealth, their grain, their whatever you want to call it, from the people. And the people, and this is the key point, because I think this is the contrast between the second half of the pasuk, is that the people, they had no opportunity, no hope to even get access to those grains, because he left, he abandoned them. He completely withheld it, and they had no accessibility to it, right. So and he was hated. They were hated, and when Naomi came back, people, they did not, respect her in the way, whatever. That's pretty clear. Okay, fine. So so the second half of the pasuk is, even when you sell it in a time of famine, even though you're not giving it for free, you're still giving the people an opportunity to earn the money to get it. You're presenting it to them. Yeah. And in a time of famine, when you have the ability to earn it, opposed to not getting it at all because of because you're being stingy about it. Yeah. That right there is a mile up, you're a stone earner willing to sell it and not keep it for yourself.
Yeah. Okay. So I do think that is a separate idea. I like the idea though. So let me just quickly take this. All right. So this is the ignore the haters approach. Okay. So I just want to quickly wrap this idea up. So I feel like we're right on the cusp of this. Here's another example of this, by the way, regarding who asked the question about. Someone asked the question about does this have to, who are these people? Does it have to be on a national level? I feel like this dynamic could apply on an individual level also. For example, if a parent is trying to teach a kid, a certain amount of self-control, and they withhold they don't let the kid have dessert before they eat their meal or whatever, so the kid is gonna yell at them and curse them, and the parent has to be able to ignore that in order to do what's right for the kid, with the assurance that blessings will come in the future. Yeah. I wonder if you could read this. Yeah, Ayala.
I was just gonna try to put a little bit of practical.
Yeah.
How, I don't know exactly what it would be, but just that when you're making decisions, then if you know these in advance, it'll just help you, you could plan out for things. So it's just be aware of this.
Right. There's a tool in a toolkit, right? Be able to withhold things that people want and are going to curse you if they don't get. Yeah. See, here's how I'm tempted to read it. Okay. I don't know if this is a radical reading. We've been reading it as two different halves, right? That one who withholds grain will be cursed by people, but blessing will fall on the head of the provider. But what if this is the same person, right? What if this is only talking about a situation where a person needs to withhold grain in order to provide at a later time, like Yosef, right? And it's saying that one who withholds grain from people, who correctly withholds grain from people, will be cursed by them, but blessing will come to his head in the end when he provides for them, something like that, so we get across the same idea that my dad's trying to say, but all in the pasuk, saying that only if, in other words, withholding stuff, grain, which is stuff that is necessary from people, is, if you're only withholding it, then that's not good, right? There's no situation on earth where just withholding forever is going to be good. So the only reason why you withhold is if that is going to ultimately lead to a better good, that's the what do you call it? That's the I don't know where the story comes from. The golden goose, the golden goose thing, right? It wasn't the goose that lays the golden eggs. Yeah, right.
Sylvian fables.
Yeah, right. So it lays the golden eggs, and it's like at first the person who owns it is getting rich, and then he like cuts open the hen to like get all the eggs, and then he just killed the hen now, So like where was I going with that? Oh yeah. So like you could argue like that hen has a bunch of eggs in it. We got to cut it open, but that's clearly bad, so withholding that is going to be good. I guess I didn't need to go to that in the first place, so I'm trying to say here that the approach is that when withholding is the right thing to do, then you should know, like I was saying, like have this tool in your toolkit. You should know that you should be able to withhold this and you'll get cursed. But ultimately, when you provide people with the fruits of the withholding, then the bracha will come on your head. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Okay, then we have Ariel's approach.
Can I ask a quick question on that
Sure.
on that approach?
Yeah.
On the last one.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a question, but maybe just like pointing out that like this pasuk is taking for, I guess, as an assumption that like how to gauge these kind of situations. Like,
Yeah.
Is there anything we can do to maybe tease out something?
So I think that's also what Ayala was getting at, which is that this pasuk is not telling you when to withhold and when not to. It's telling you a strategy for coping with public opinion when you are when you're faced with everyone being roundly hated, and it's using this as an example. I according to this approach, I don't think it is telling you when to withhold and when not to. Yeah.
So it's really just telling you like if you're right about what you think is the right thing to do here, then there's a good that will happen.
Yeah, and that you will, and see, again, this is very Mishleic also, because what it's saying is that see, Koheles would say, don't care what people think. But Mishlei does not challenge your values. Mishlei endorses your values. Just, care what people think, but realize that what people, if you tolerate the hate now, because you are actually doing good, you will get that public adoration later on, when they see why you did what you did. So I think that's what it's telling you. Yeah, Tamar?
I was just wondering if any of the Mefarshim that you saw said that this is actually like a reference to Yosef. I was just wondering because the word mashbir, I don't know how rare or what that is.
Yeah. So when we go through the Mefarshim, we'll just scan for it. A lot of them referenced it, but I think they referenced it in as an example, not like just like kind of like in passing, Yeah,
it really just seems like the epitome of
it really does. Yeah. This is where you expect Rashi to jump in and say that, but he did not. Yeah. Yes.
I apologize if I'm stepping over a line.
Yeah.
But President Biden just released gasoline from the petroleum reserves to bring down prices on gasoline. And
right.
He's being praised by some. He's being cursed by others.
That's a good example where I guess time will tell, right? And maybe, presumably he'll be dead by the time by the time we find out whether the tapping into the reserves was good or bad, like long run, like he's not gonna be around anymore. So,
and that's 2 weeks before an election.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. Ariel, let's just try to get Ariel's approach really quickly. So Ariel was using the example of Elimelech and Naomi to say that he withheld, which meant that he completely removed their ability to get it at all. Whereas providing isn't just giving away for free, it's selling, but he still is providing a service. Is that the distinction you're making, Ariel?
Yeah, but it's the effect of doing that. It's the
yeah. So taking away the ability. Oh, you know who did this? Hold on. Okay, so I know that there's a new story that came out just today, which I have not followed. But I don't know who's been following the story with YU and the LGBT Pride Alliance that YU got. I don't even know the details, but I know that YU basically like tried to shut down like this LGBT club or whatever, and then they got sued, and like it's going all the way up to the Supreme Court. I don't know if it did or if it didn't. So what did YU do? Is they for I think a month they shut down all clubs, right? They took away the ability for anybody to have any club whatsoever, right? And they got hated for that, and like that is a like that would be like an example where you are not only there's one thing, there's releasing a good in for a cost, and then there's completely withholding it, right? And that's the distinction here. If you completely withhold it, you get cursed. That's like, that's another move that teachers and some parents make of like, like if you can't whatever, you can't like line up nicely at the end of recess, you're not going to get recess at all. Like it's the move again. It's a misguided power play where like it's even more misguided than the first one. I don't even know why people would do such a thing. I mean, it does demonstrate that you have all the power, right? Like I'm not giving you any of this, yeah, it's yeah, you will get cursed.
It's funny. I think that story is more, it's good. It's better for your dad's idea.
Which story?
The YU story.
Oh, the YU one? Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it depends. Yeah, I mean, depends on which. Yeah, well, let's put it this way: if YU is correct, right, so then it is better because they're saving the institution and saving the values, right? And time will tell, right? I mean, they're getting cursed, but then time will tell. On the other hand, if by doing this, then they're going to get sued and they're going to lose their right to be a religious institution. That will destroy all of the values, because if the ruling, again, I'm not following the case, but if the ruling turns out that they are, whatever, I don't know enough about the case, but yeah, time will tell for that also. Yeah. Speaking of time, in the interest of time, even though Ariel, I want to explore this a little bit more, I want to really quickly voice the approach that I was going to take. And then I want to just look at some of the Mefarshim and just see what lines they follow along. And then we could develop this afterward. Then we could officially end and then develop this afterwards. But I wanted to say that this is an example of capitalism gone right and gone wrong. Okay, similar to Rifki's idea, but anyone remember Martin Shkreli? I got to look up the facts. So Martin Shkreli was this guy. Look at his face. Okay, this is the face of a jerk. Okay, this is the guy, American hedge fund manager and convicted felon. Or where did he do this? Okay, in September 2015, Shkreli was widely criticized when Turing, that's the company, I think, right? Obtained the manufacturing license for the anti-parasitic drug Daraprim and raised its price by 5,455%. Okay, raising it from $13.50 per pill to $750 per pill. Okay, so why was he doing this? He was doing this to make money. Okay, but this is what there's a term for this, right? There's a term for the type of people. I mean, people point to this as examples of like bad capitalism, right? But they do it for a different reason than I'm going to do it for. Okay, so he was charged and convicted in federal court on 2 counts of security fraud and 1 count of conspiring to commit securities fraud. Okay, whatever. I just want to focus on this one point here. So price gouging, right? This is a severe example of price gouging, right? Where there's scarcity and you let me just make sure I got the definition right. That's what price gouging is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I just want to see the when a seller increases the prices of goods, services, or commodities to a level much higher than is considered reasonable or fair. Usually this event occurs during a demand or supply shock. Right. Okay.
There's a case in the Gemara about price gouging for esrogim also.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
I think yeah.
Yeah.
Someone I think there was like a Tana, or I'm sorry, Amara was like, I'm going to ban your esrogim if you price gouge or something.
Yeah, right.
Something
Okay, so that's exactly the point I wanted to make, which is that the guy who does, why does the person do this? The person does this because they think, oh, I'm going to make more money, right? And there's nothing wrong with making money, as we see from the second half of the pasuk, okay? But the problem is if you do this to the point where you are neglecting public opinion and people curse you, that's bad capitalism. That's bad business, And what you have to do is you can sell your grain when there is scarcity, but you have to hit that sweet spot, just like we had the sweet spot in the idea of the leadership power hungry thing. You have to hit that sweet spot where you are providing goods in a way where it's being perceived as a service that people welcome, and they're willing to pay for, rather than a withholding, So this idea is not that different than Rifki's idea. I just wanted to bring it into the realm of capitalism. And this is the mistake that people will sometimes make. Or similarly, like, it might not have to be with how much you charge. Like, for example, the people who hate Amazon are not hating Amazon because they're providing bad services for you, right? People love Amazon services. They are hating Amazon because they feel Amazon is not providing adequate working conditions for their workers. So that's another, again, I don't know enough about the facts to say whether they're doing, what the facts are, but they're being perceived as withholding what is rightfully belongs to the workers. Whereas, let's say Starbucks is another company that is a capitalist, successful company. But Starbucks, I don't know about now, but I know when Starbucks was being built, it was widely praised for providing way more benefits to their employees, of like education and like paid time off and insurance and all this other stuff, and they were liked for that. So this again is talking about like, it's okay to be to pursue capitalistic profit, as long as you do it intelligently and don't like antagonize your customer base, which again sounds obvious, but that it's a quantitative thing that greed can like blur the your ability to evaluate that. Okay, yeah, Ayala.
I feel like this could apply to like any case where there's a leader, like whether it's in terms of like financial things or like, I don't know, let's say in a conversation or in a team or like literally anything else. So there's like a leader who has control.
Yeah, I think so also. So I'm going to put this in, I'm going to classify my idea with Rifki's idea. I think they're similar enough. Okay, quick glance through some of the Mefarshim here. And see just the way that they take it. So I'm gonna just do Mitzudas. I didn't have as much time to look. Oh, okay. I know why. Oh man. The time. Okay, you know where most of the Mefarshim went? I'm remembering now. They said that this is a metaphor. And what do you think it's a metaphor for?
Your mind and your
Yes, it's a metaphor for teaching, like we saw for the last two psukim. Okay, so for example, so Mitzudas David says, Hamonea bar hachadal limkor tivuaso be'esat tzorech u'mishamra adzman hayoker. Someone who who refuses to sell his produce at a time of need and stores it until a time when it's expensive, yikalaluhu b'nei umaso. The people of his nation will curse him. Ubracha ba l'rosh hamocher shever be'esat tzorech. And blessing will come to the head of the person who sells provisions at a time of need, because everyone will bless him. And this is said by way of analogy to someone who bestows his chachma to other people. Okay, we'll read about that in a second. Rashi also says hamonea bar, one who withholds grain, milalam divrei Torah. So it means withholding Torah teachings. Okay. Sadigon says pshat nachon ba'ochel. The pshat works out for food. Va'inyan b'shnei chachamim. And the Indian here, I think he means like the metaphor, is with two chachamim. She'echad kili al chachmaso. One of them is stingy about his chachma. Vasheni mashpia ba. The second one is generous with it. Ukvar yadata sh'Rabbi Akiva hayam afazer chachmaso im kol rubuya. Rabbi Akiva would squander his chachma, would disperse it freely, like we did two psukim ago, with in all of its abundance. And then I had to read who this person was. Hugris ben Levi. Anyone know who that is? I had no idea. Hugris ben Levi was a Levi who knew only one song, which apparently was a really good like thing, and he didn't teach anybody. Okay, so Hugris ben Levi nahag ba Bekilus imiuta. He conducted himself with stinginess with the very little that he had. Okay, similarly, I'm not going to read all of them. So Radak says Monea bar Misha Monea Atma Lilimo Torah, someone who withholds himself from teaching Torah, Yikalaluhu Anashim, people will curse him. Ubracha Tavel Misha Malami Torah Lacherim, bracha will come to someone who teaches Torah to the mass, to many, to other people, Kiakol Yavarchu, everyone will bless him. Then he says the Pshat, V'yesh Misha Mefarshim pasuk Al Mishi Yeshlo Tavua Harbe. Some explain this pasuk to be about someone who has a lot of grain or produce, ve'eno rosa lemokra b'yemei ravon, and he doesn't want to sell it. Oh, that's the same thing as we saw before. There's one more person who said a good metaphorical thing, I think. Yeah. So Rabag also says, someone who withholds the grain of study, meaning like the fruit of your analysis. Yakalaluhu kol ha'am, people will curse him. O ha'uma, or the people or the nation will curse him. Because he doesn't want to benefit people with what God gave him. And on the head of someone who is the provider and teaches people knowledge to people, tavalo bracha, bracha will come, because they will bless him. And he will also get bracha in his learning, by increasing the learning. We've said that before, that the more you teach, the better you learn. You also get bracha from God. Oh, so that's all the three people we mentioned, right? You're getting bracha from people because they will like the fact that you're teaching them. You're getting bracha from yourself because the more you teach, the more you're going to learn, and you're getting bracha from Hashem as a reward. Okay, so we get that's what the majority of the Mefarshim are saying here. Okay, and there's more. So the question is, can we just get like a can we explain the idea? Okay, we already know the idea that if you teach people, you're going to gain from it, from teaching, and if you withhold, then you're losing out. But what's this? Why phrase this in terms of withholding grain? Like, what do we get from the nuance of the mashal if we're applying it to teaching? Grain and provisions.
Can you say, like, I'm just thinking specifically about grain, that like we were saying before, that's like a fundamental. So if you think about like teaching as like a fundamental to like human life and like getting into Olam Haba and this and that, like in that sense.
Yeah. So that's a good mashal, and in fact, the Torah is definitely compared to wheat. Okay, that's I know they're chazals, I just don't know where they are. For that reason, yes, that's nice. The only problem with it is I feel like that alone isn't satisfying, because I think we need to like explain how that's like necessary for the idea. Like saying, like the way we have it now is like withholding Torah is bad for the reasons we said, and giving Torah is good for the reasons we said. And why is Torah compared to grain? Because grain is important, or it's gonna get you to Olam Haba. I feel like I'd like a tighter connection. Yeah, Tamar?
This might be a little bit forced, but
Sure.
Just trying to like to connect this to one of the like analyses that we had with the grain.
Yeah.
So maybe you could say that a person who's withholding their learning it's because like something like that, something like a power hungry person. I don't know exactly what the analogy would be.
Yeah.
But maybe they want to be like, the smartest, like the guy who wouldn't teach anyone the song or whatever, like they want to have something over other people.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure how it backfires in this situation.
Okay, I think I got it. Okay, so first of all, let's just use this as an opportunity to summarize that idea. Okay, so we've got two levels here. Okay, is the derech, the derech nigle, okay, which is this pasuk is addressed to a person, to a leader, or a powerful person who seeks to maintain and increase their power. Okay, the foolish move is to withhold the good from those who are dependent on you, thinking that by increasing their dependency, you'll increase your power. Okay, in reality, you'll just end up antagonizing them, making them curse you, okay, i.e. Having extreme ill will, which will not only threaten your position, but will also puncture your fantasy of being the all-powerful ruler. Okay. The intelligent move is to distribute the good in a manner which will provide the experience of shever, i.e., breaking of hunger, okay, which will not only provide people, which not only will provide people with what they need to thrive, but will make them feel that you are a benefit to them, which will make them bless you and want you to stay in power. Okay, so now let's take tomorrow's derech nistar approach. Okay, so this pasuk is addressed to someone who wishes to use their knowledge for kavod. Okay, for kavod, right? So the foolish move, and as I type this, tell me who was guilty of this. Okay, move is to be stingy with your knowledge, because so that you can bask in the limelight and not have to share your glory with anyone. Okay, who was guilty of this and was killed for it? And it wasn't just one person.
Like in the Torah?
No, not in the Torah. Actually, it's in the Gemara. But we know it.
Students of
Yeah.
Rabbi Akiva.
Students of Rabbi Akiva, right? Students of Rabbi Akiva were stingy with their Torah and they didn't honor each other. And my theory is that those are two related things, is that they were learning Torah for kavod to the point where they thought that anyone who, like, I want full credit for my idea. I don't want anyone else to have it. And if I share it with you, then that's like taking away from my, it's a zero-sum game, you know, like the students of Rabbi Akiva. Okay. So what happens is this just ends up creating a cutthroat society in which people want to see their fellow chacham fail, and knowledge isn't shared, and people become haughty from their Torah, and a bunch of other bad things. Okay, I'm not going to go into that right now. Okay, the correct way to get kavod out of your chachma is to share it, right? So people will admire your knowledge, will be in have gratitude towards you for your teaching, and will keep on coming back for more, right? And you're going to get kavod, right? You're going to get, people are going to respect you and like honor you, you know. And again, so it's and that's the great thing about tzedek, about tzedakah, is that the more you give it, the better it is for everybody, you know. And I like what the Rambam said, is that like these last three psukim that we've had, you know, were all metaphorically understood to be about chachma as well, right? Again, let's just read them again. There's one who scatters and gathers more, but one who withholds from uprightness is only for lack. A blessed soul will become fat, but one who slakes the thirst of others will have his thirst slaked. And then our pasuk, you know, this is all about distributing knowledge. Yeah. Okay, good. Let's just summarize the other two ideas really quickly and then call it a night. And then I'll stay on if we have other approaches. So this approach was saying that sometimes you will have to withhold good from people, and that will make them hate you and curse you. But if you know that this is in their best long-term interests, then rest assured, then ignore their curses, and rest assured that when they recognize the good of what you've done, they'll bless you, right? Like Yosef. And then Ariel's idea, which I don't feel I have enough of a handle on to fully summarize, but I can start us off, okay, which is, and then Ariel, you can fill in the rest if you'd like, and we can develop it, which is in a situation of scarcity, if you, the one who possesses the scarce resource, flee the scene, right? And make it absolutely impossible for people to get what they need, then you'll be universally hated. But if you make it available, even though you're making a profit, people will appreciate what you're providing and will bless you.
And it's kind of interesting. It is kind of similar to the other ideas in a way.
Yeah.
Just-
Yeah. I mean, you're making a different distinction in the pasuk than we made, which is a good one. But I think it comes to the same root of a misguided effort to, I mean, I don't know what you hold that Elimelech's motive was, but it seemed to be that he didn't want to be in this position of like supplying the poor people, right? I mean, like, it seems to be a resistance to the very like position itself. So
yeah, I think a lot of them are fresh to take that.
Yeah. Okay. So I think this is a good place to officially end this year for tonight. And I think we got some nice ideas here. Yeah, hopefully next week's pasuk will not be on the same topic. Not that I'm tired of this, but we've had 3 pasukim in a row that are on this topic. But look, we got good nuances. Okay, so I'll stick around in case anyone has any questions. But if this is it, then have a good night, everyone.
Yeah, but what can for my idea, what needs to be more explained more?
Yeah, good question.
So I can think about it more.
Yeah. Good question.
Maybe is the, like, then what if they hate you or love you or bless you?
Yes. The so what question is a good question. I would also I do want to understand what the motive is for the person who, like, who's the pasuk talking to? I think that's like the way we've explained it is in really all 3 of these approaches is it's the 2 people in the 2 halves of the pasuk have the same motive. I want to know here in Ariel's approach, is it the same motive? And there's just one's an intelligent way about trying to get what they want and the other one's unintelligent, or is it something else?
I feel like they're different. I mean, I don't know, because like that's just not the way that I was thinking about it. So I guess Ariel, like, you could like, say, but I feel like they're just different. Like, I don't feel like this is like necessarily a power hungry person. Like, to me, it almost feels like it's more of like someone that kind of like happens to have the right resources in the first half.
Right.
Like, I don't get that vibe.
Well, what's interesting is that one of the approaches we took to the last week, or not last week, last time we did this pasuk in Mishlei, where is it again? I keep losing it. Oh, nefesh bracha tidushan umarve gamhu yoreh. We one of the possibilities we said of nefesh bracha is someone who just is blessed with resources, right? Like, they just, like, someone who inherits money, or like they just happen to have good resources, So that does, like, so if you learn these 2 pasukim together, then maybe that's what it means. Is like, if you have a nefesh bracha and you provide people, then that's a good thing. But if you withhold it, then that's bad. And that's like an Elimelech type situation where he's just withholding it, So that could be an answer to my question, is that in our ideas, we were saying that it's that the 2 people share in common the fact that they have the same motives. Maybe Ariel is just learning it's 2 people who share the same circumstances, that it's 2 people with wealth in a situation of scarcity.
Right. And what was the other, Ayala, what was your question again?
So what?
So
yeah, about being cursed and being blessed. Like in our interpretations, then it matters because the cursing and the blessing, the cursing is a consequence and the blessing is what the person really wants. Like, you could say to Elimelech, right, that his consequences, he got killed by God, right? But the curses of the people didn't have any effect on him, and if he lived out the rest of his life in Moab, then he wouldn't have to deal with their curses.
I mean, it did have the effect of his family, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I mean, still
right.
Bad.
Although our pasuk, I think, is Davka not saying that, because it sounds like it's to the person himself.
I know. I guess the question is, if he was alive and he came back, like what?
Yeah. Ayala, did you have a separate question or approach?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I just have a different question. According to the first 2 and the third, the first 2 and the third approach, all kind of deal with how the people see you. But according to the first 2, it's like, you care about how the people perceive you and you want them to perceive you as good, and it's saying this is the way to do it.
Yeah.
And then the third one, it's saying like the opposite of like ignore them. Is that just because we're assuming that in the first, the person, like the, I guess, person who it's talking to in the first is someone who wants power, so it's telling you how to go about it? Or is there something more of like how you should take society's, I don't know, opinions into account?
I was actually learning this as the person does care about what people think, because I was learning it that that he will get bracha at the end when he provides for people, you know, and that he cares about the bracha from the people. I don't think you have to learn it that way, but that's how I was learning it.
Okay, fine, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the reason why is because if the first half is talking to someone who says, and if the first half is telling people don't care about the fact that they're cursing you, it means that we're talking about a person who is subject to caring about it, you know?
Well, just on that point,
Right.
Can't you learn that you don't care about what the people think? Because at the end of the day, if you're doing something that's, you know, objectively good, and, you know, and if they still don't see that value, but you do it because you just know it's good, you don't really care about what the people think. I mean,
right. Then why does the pasuk have to talk about the people cursing you then?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, then there's no, like, the natural consequence doesn't matter.
Right. Like Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't need a pasuk to tell him don't care about what people think, because he already doesn't care about what people think.
I feel like sometimes you have to care, not because of not like caring in terms of an emotional thing, but like you have to take that into account because you're dealing with the people.
Right. So then that would take us in a different direction then, because that would be saying that you have to treat their curses as a practical problem, like a PR problem, you know, not a values based, like measuring your self-worth based on that, you know, and then we have to take a different approach, which is fine. But
I'm sorry, how do we get to this? Like just like the steps to this point?
Because Ayala's question was like, you know, the first two approaches are talking to people who care what others think. And
Right.
Ayala initially said that the third approach was not. And I'm saying the third approach is talking to someone who cares what people think, which is why Shlomo has to tell him, don't care what people think. And then Ayala just said, and then you suggested, but like, you know, I forgot. Okay. I forgot how your thing played in.
Not important. It didn't work out anyway.
Ayala said then
Right.
sometimes you do have to care what people think because of a practical reasons, not because like you evaluate yourself based on their ideas, but because, you know, if people are bad mouthing, you know, your let's say you're whatever, let's say like you are you're running for office, right? And let's say you really don't care about what people think, but people are bad mouthing you. So if that's going to cause people to not vote for you, that could result in you not becoming elected, and then you won't be able to do the good that you truly care about. So that's like a practical problem.
Oh, I see. I mean, practically speaking, like you have to deal with the practical issue.
Yeah, right.
And that's the curse or the bracha.
Yeah. So, you know, Ayala, that really fits more into the practical advice from the first two approaches, which is that you have to manage your image in a way where your withholding is being perceived as benevolent by providing, you know, and however you figure out how to do that, like, you know, then like that's, you know, that'll save you. Like, I don't really know. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it
But
might
then
be
the
hard
problem-
to do. Like, look, Yosef couldn't tell people, don't eat food for 7 years, right? We need to save all of it for the next 7 years. So he had to like find some way to ration out the food during the years of plenty while taking a huge amount from them to store it for the future, you know? So like he had to like work that out in a practical way where people aren't just gonna like lead a revolt and like kill him, you know?
Right. So I guess I think that was where my question is coming from, because like that idea would imply that you should try to like get the public opinion on your side. But then the approach that your dad was saying was kind of saying, no, like, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I like the approach that my dad was saying, because it can coexist with what you're saying. It's just that, like, in the same way that every Mishlei pasuk deals with a separate thing, not all Mishlei pasukim are trying to give you all the right decisions to make in any given sugya. It's just a tool in the tool belt. And sometimes you'll have to have a tool in the tool belt that says care about what people think. For practical reasons. And this pasuk is just not dealing with that.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah, that makes sense.
This way to go right now. Yeah.
I have a general question that I just remembered from the beginning.
Yeah.
Just like in general, not just Mishlei, how can we say like the blessing will be on the head of someone? And I don't remember, we don't say that about Klalos, do we?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I do remember an earlier pasuk we did in the year, this was like 2 years ago. Wow, I can say that about this year now.
Wow.
I think we had another Rosh. Yeah,
I remember what you're talking about.
Someone
Yeah.
there said that since the blessing comes from above, like from Hashem, was it the Malbim? Ose, yeah, no. Oh yeah. No, he says something different though. He says, Ose Maise HaTzedek, Hakol Mavarchim Oso Mipnei HaTov Shemashpia Lakol. So someone who does an act of tzedakah, everyone blesses him because of the good that he's bestowing on everyone. Yitzayin, it is depicted as if everyone's placing their hands on his head and blessing. So there it's saying, it's taking it from the way that we bless people in Torah of putting the hands on the head.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah,
very-
I thought someone else said that it's like, since it's coming from Shemayim, then that's like being depicted as coming from above, whereas you wouldn't say that by a klala. Yeah, I'm
like
not sure.
you say, like a klala is more of like the Eov category of raw, like just people being annoying.
Yeah, I don't think you would appreciate you trivializing. I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Sorry.
Yeah.
There's enough to deal with.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. Okay, I think I got to go now, but this was a good pasuk.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Have a good night.
Back in the regular routine. Yeah, have a good night.